You've probably heard the term Christians are to be in the world, but not of the world. But what does that actually mean? See, God has called us as Christians to be set apart from, which means to be completely different from the people and the culture of this world. In Romans 12:2, it says, "Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world." So I want you to think of it on these terms. Think of a river and all the water is going downstream. Well, as Christians, we're to actually be going upriver, which is completely different than the culture and the people of this world. So you may be wondering, what's so bad about this world and the world culture? Well, you see, it all started when sin entered into the world from the fall of man. And then God gave Satan dominion to rule over this realm until Christ's return. In 2 Corinthians 4:4, it actually says that Satan is the god, little g, of this world. In other references, it calls him the prince of this world. Then in Revelation, it says that Satan leads the whole world astray. So without even knowing it, the world and the world culture is being led away from righteousness and doing God's will and doing their own will and wickedness that leads to destruction. I'm going to read some of the most direct verses that really address this, and one of the first ones is 1 John 2:15 and 16, and it says this. It says, "Do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For everything in the world, the cravings of sinful man, the lust of the eyes, and the boasting of what he has and does, comes not from the Father, but from the world." You see, this verse is very eye-opening because it's very easy to fall into the trap of this world. Now I'm going to switch over to the book of James. If you've never read the book of James, James is an awesome book. He is no frills, straight up, very direct, and I love this. Starting in verse 4:4, he says this, "You adulterous people." He's saying, "You unfaithful people, you're having an affair with the world." He says, "You adulterous people, don't you know that friendship with the world is hatred towards God? Anyone who chooses to be a friend of the world becomes an enemy of God." The reason James is so adamant about this is because your focus is not on God and his agenda. Your focus is on the material possessions and things and culture of this world. And it's an unfaithfulness, it's an idolatry that you may not even realize. James has another verse that addresses this, and it's back in chapter 1, and it says this. It says, "Religion that God accepts as pure and faultless is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress," here it is, "and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world." Now, what does polluted mean? Polluted means to be tainted, to be contaminated by this world. So it's something we always have to be incredibly mindful if we're not doing God's agenda, or if we're falling to the material possessions and the culture of this world. We got to be careful. Okay, guys, now you're going to transition into a time where your leader's going to share a couple questions, and just be honest and open. And guys, this is a time, really, I really believe this, where iron sharpens iron. It's going to be just a blessing for everyone. So guys, take care and God bless.